Bubbles, dark basement, scuttles, fingernails.
Hi witches, it's Rose. You're about to listen to Nika's interview of Michelle, the owner of Widdershins, a beautiful witchy store in Perth, Ontario. Michelle has carefully curated her store to contain unique, useful items for the practicing witch, including her latest edition of an apothecary bar for creating spell jars on the spot. But before we get to their interview, be sure to like and subscribe us on whatever app you're listening from, and come join us on our Facebook group, the Great North Witches Collective. Here we go.
Hey guys, it's Nika. I'm here to talk to Michelle. Michelle is an intuitive witch. She owns a shop called Widdershins in Perth, Ontario. Her shop features many Canadian-made products and strives to support female-owned businesses. Her intuitive services include Reiki, tarot, and tea leaf reading, and she also hosts a number of wonderful workshops to help you tap into your intuitive abilities. I've been to a few of them now, and I've always thoroughly enjoyed them. On top of being an intuitive witch, Michelle is also a mother and a wife and holds a full-time mundane job. She also identifies as neurodivergent, which the Oxford Dictionary defines as differing in mental or neurological function from what is considered typical or normal. Michelle is here to talk to us today about her neurodivergency in witchcraft and what that means for her store and her struggles and triumphs that she has experienced in balancing a mundane job with a witchy life. So hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about you and where your witchiness comes from?
For sure. I think that it took me a little while to be okay with being witchy. I spent a lot of my life feeling very drawn to certain things like divination. I've always been a bit of a hedge crosser, living in two worlds, which can be difficult, I think, to balance. So I actually became very afraid of it. And I sought out different types of, I think, spiritual routine or religion or something where I could feel like it's not me.
Yeah.
So I think we all know that there are some major religions out there that hand everything over to a different deity. And I wanted the security of that, but it always felt very inauthentic. And I didn't appreciate if those were the teachings what the people were doing with them. And I couldn't be part of that community. Yeah. I tried for a long time. This is not nice to admit, but I was actually kicked out of the church at one point.
Are you comfortable telling us about how you got kicked out of church?
I can tell you. It wasn't because I was out of control or bad. It's actually because I was pregnant. So was the youth pastor's girlfriend. And everybody laid hands on them and prayed for them to, get over their temptation and get married. But as a single female who was not clergy, I was just told I can't come back. And I was like, wow, way to support the lepers.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Come to the dark side, we have cookies.
Anyway, from that, I found a way to be more and more aligned with myself. So when I say intuitive witch, it's because I've had to blaze my own path. I think I was growing up in a time when there really wasn't a lot of media or accessibility to information, because I am pre-internet. So there wasn't really a lot of information that I could find outside of the library that would help guide me towards what felt true for me. So,
and back then it was very heavily Wiccan based, so if that wasn't something that you resonated with, it was a little off-putting.
Yes, if I was already running from deities, it was really hard for me to jump back in with a plethora of names that I couldn't pronounce or remember. I don't know if you have that thing with books, if you can't pronounce the name.
Yep.
I'm out. So I love the lore, I do, but I couldn't retain it. And I didn't feel comfortable with it because it wasn't my experience. And I'm not good at adopting somebody else's experience and making it mine by rote memory or by following somebody else's practices. So I even was very put off by the idea of ritual for a long time because I didn't want to do ritual for ritual's sake.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to copy something that was somebody else's because it wasn't mine. So it didn't ring true to me and it wasn't going to have any intention or authenticity. So just becoming more and more aware of the person I was and how I lived my life brought me into witchcraft. And I will say it started with the seasons. just recognizing that I was a different person or had different intentions or wants or needs throughout the year, and that was cyclical and seasonal. That's where it started for me.
The seasonal thing definitely makes sense. We were just one of the last episodes talking about seasonal affective disorder and how in the wintertime not only your energy is different, but I mean because your energy is different, your practice is different too, right? And coming to terms with that's part of the cycle. It's allowing yourself to be comfortable in the fact that your practice is different in the wintertime compared to in the height of summer when it's beautiful and you can spend all your time outside, right? So you do mention often that you're an intuitive witch. So what do you define that as, and what are the gifts that come with being an intuitive witch?
I think the biggest gift for me has been learning to trust myself, which is something that, as I mentioned, I tried to give my power away so many times because I didn't think that I was enough or that what I thought was good enough. I don't know if it has to do with, we're sort of raised in a society where everybody knows better than you, especially anybody who's older than you or has more experience than you. So it was hard for me to believe that what I thought was the right thing for me was the right thing.
Can you tell us a little bit about your shop?
When I was in Hamilton, same as before where I had my day job, same job, on the weekends I would go into this little store that had opened up called The Witch's Fix, and I slowly became their resident reader.
Nice.
So, and that's kind of interesting too because I am so shy. The first time I went into that store, I didn't make eye contact with the owner, and I walked around. I didn't say a word. I bought one thing for like $2 and I left. And that was my way of checking it out. And I had heard that they were looking for people to come in and do readings because the owner didn't do them. And the owner was a not quite 30 young woman, and this was her passion project. So I started doing readings there on the weekends, and that's how I got really comfortable with doing readings, by putting myself out there. And it was really difficult at first. I remember the first reading that I did and how petrified I was. Yeah. But the more I did it, the more comfortable I became, and the more I began to love it or loathe it, depending on the day. And when we moved from Hamilton to Perth, we had moved here with the intention of opening the gallery. My husband had left his job. We wanted him to do art full-time, and we wanted to open a space where all of his artist friends could show their work, because throughout the pandemic there were no markets. There was, a lot of people sitting on prints or artwork that they couldn't sell because they couldn't do conventions and such, which was something we used to do. And when we went to visit the space, there was one room that had like a hearth in it. And we looked at each other, and we looked at the hearth, and we looked at each other, and I knew it was going to be my space, and I was basically going to transport the experience that I'd had the last few years working at the Witch's Fix into that room, so I could gather all the things that I love, all the books, and curate it specifically the way I wanted to, and that I could run the workshops and do all those things. I don't know a lot about business, and I don't think we run things the way that most people run a business. I know nothing about marketing. I actually really don't enjoy social media. So it's not something that you'll see me on all that often. But I had this sense that it was a little field of dreams. It was kind of like, if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to have this kind of secret, out-of-the-way place that people whisper about and show up. And it was for, quote-unquote, the real witches. It wasn't going to be tchotchke garbage that says something about witches on it. I wanted it to be useful. I wanted to provide the tools for people who are really engaged in their craft and have difficulty acquiring the things that they're looking for. So I started out fairly broad, and I think as time goes on, I'm making it witchier and witchier because it took me a bit to find the sources that I wanted to order from and feel comfortable with, and to find those harder to find things that I've wanted for a long time, and to make sure that I had the audience. So Widdershins means counterclockwise or against the sun. So you talk about summertime. I actually find summertime not energizing, but draining because it's so much fire energy.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like everything speeds up and moves so fast and I can't keep up with it. That takes a lot of energy for me. So it's kind of like double too much energy coming from every aspect. So Widdershins, against the grain, sort of being an outsider, a little bit against a lot of the societal norms that we're supposed to accept. To me, to run things backwards means to take control and do it a different way.
I love that.
It's also repellent, I think, in a sense. Even just, like, I believe in incantations and the power of magic in your words. So for people to say Widdershins, it's a bit of a gatekeeping, because I feel like, you know, when you stir your coffee Widdershins to repel negativity,
yeah.
I feel like if people hear or say the name and it's not for them, they're not going to show up.
No, that's amazing, though. I know that it's important for you within your business at your store to support both Canadian and female-owned businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about why that's important to you?
Absolutely. I would describe myself as a bit of a feminist, very inclusive, transsectional for sure. Anybody that identifies as a female is who I'm trying to support. I feel like it's harder for women to start and maintain a business. So I want to use the resources that I have to perpetuate that as a great energy. Let's keep them employed. Let's help them live their passions, because as you mentioned, a lot of women are trying to balance so many competing priorities that we put the things that we love aside to do what needs to be done. And then you get into this mode of just making do. Or
doing everything for everybody else and not for yourself.
Exactly. So if I have an opportunity through my shop to specifically support local Canadian female businesses, then that's what I chose to focus on. It's not like I'm trying to push a niche market. Ethically, I couldn't buy stuff from Amazon and put it in the shop. I don't want to attract people through pop culture. So aside from things that are very near and dear to my heart, like Labyrinth, I do have some Labyrinth stuff, but I don't have Harry Potter because I know the story could be trans-inclusive, but we all know that J.K. Rowling is not. So I won't support her through purchasing products that may benefit her.
Absolutely. Do you have any particularly witchy female-owned businesses that are your favorites right now?
It's hard to say. I don't know if I have a favorite anything because I'm not somebody who's good at choosing a favorite anything. But what that does make me think of are the areas where I find it difficult to identify and locate female-created products, Canadian female. So it's difficult for me to find tarot cards or oracle cards and authors that are specifically female and Canadian because they're not really sold that way.
Yeah.
So I have to do my research, which is great, but I also only have so much time. So I'm very happy to get recommendations anytime from people.
This is it's some of the struggles that I've been having with the podcast here is trying to find Canadian content creators within the witchy circles and sphere and stuff like that on social media. I've got one or two people from YouTube that I've found, and there's a couple authors. Kate Ruler, she's Canadian, and I believe Paige Vanderbeck, she does a book about green witchcraft of some sort, and I think she's Canadian too. And I think she also has a podcast. But yeah, I feel that I mean, it's hard to find Canadian, just find it's not something that's discussed a whole lot is people that are Canadian based. You get a lot of people that are American and you get a lot of them that are European, because I find witch culture tends to be a lot more readily embraced over there than it is here. We're getting there, but
I have a couple European female-owned businesses that I work with as well, but I'm very selective, so I don't mind to name drop Womancraft Publishing. They are based in Ireland. Owner is autistic, and she splits the profits 50-50 with her authors, which is pretty much unheard of.
Wow.
And she's very selective about the type of content that's published, not in a like an Elon Musk kind of way, but like in a that it's typically nonfiction, and it really is about women finding their power.
That's
but
really
it's
cool.
Across the board, different genres. So.
I like that. While we're talking about autistic business owners and people on the spectrum of neurodivergent, I did see your post that you had put on Facebook. I think it was November. Recently-ish. It made my heart very, very happy. In this post, you were talking about how you and your husband both identify as neurodivergent and how it's important to you both to ensure that your businesses are accessible and inclusive for everyone. I've been very, very grateful for the little tweaks that you have made in your workshops for me. When I showed up to the first workshop and I told you that I had aphantasia and that visualization was a difficult thing for me, you very quickly and very easily made some very simple adjustments to the things you were talking about, and I really appreciate that. So thank you. Do you mind talking to us a little bit about your neurodivergent, how that affects you, your practice, your business?
It definitely poses some challenges, and I think it also changes the way that my husband and I run our businesses. We're very different in our neurodivergences as well. One of us is chaos and one of us is order. And so I do feel like sometimes we're fighting each other for the same goal, but we get there so differently.
Yeah.
I actually have had somebody comment in the shop. I wasn't there, but my oldest was there, and they told me that this person said, "Is this shop owned by a neurodivergent person? Because everything in it is tactile, because you can pick it up and you can smell it and you can explore it." And like, I'm a very sensory based person, although I do have sensory sensitivities as well. So to me, to be able to, first of all, make anybody who comes in feel comfortable. If there's somebody who doesn't want to talk and they just want to look at things and they never make eye contact with me, I'm going to let that person be. And I will let them know I'm there. And if they want to come to me, or if I see that they look like they might have a question, I can approach them in like an appropriate way. Anybody who comes in who maybe speaks a lot and has a lot to say, kind of the opposite of that, where they're oversharing. I'm an oversharer, so I get it.
Me too.
Or they're as excited as I am and they don't leave for 2 hours. I'm not going to ask somebody to go because I need to get on with my work. I'm going to, share that space with them. I think that there are things about business that really intimidate me. I'm not great at decision making. It's something I struggle with. I think that's part of why I like tarot cards so much, because they can help me move past those boundaries that I have in my own mind where I'm second guessing. Because again, it's a different replacement maybe for that thing outside of myself, but is also myself. To tap into my subconscious and go, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Or look at it this way, or here's a different perspective. I'm not great with responding quickly. I'm somebody who can put my phone away and not think about it. And I think other people, say my husband, is the like, what if I miss something? Or, we're mid-conversation and he'll pick up his phone to answer somebody else in the middle of his own sentence. And I'll say, oh, should I just wait? But I will look at an email and go, oh, I should respond to that, but I don't feel like it right now. And sometimes I'm not motivated to do it. And then other times it's because I don't know how to say no nicely. And then I am that person who will Google how to talk to somebody to say things properly so that I'm not too cold or too much, because it seems to swing in either direction, especially with business. And I think because of my full-time job where I do need to be professional, so things are very concise.
Yeah.
But when
short
you're
and to the point, but that's not always the best way to approach a personal conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With business, it's more about networking, but I am very shy. That counter in my space, that's like my barrier.
Yeah.
If I need to hide behind there, then I can do that. Another thing that I do, especially when I'm in the shop, and it's me, I have to greet everybody. I'm the one that has to talk to people, and that's hard.
Yeah.
I am a fidgeter. I definitely am stimming a lot. So the hems of my clothing often get worn or have holes in them. But at the shop, I often am making something. I'm putting things together. I'm doing cross stitch. I'm using something that's in my shop so that I can keep my hands busy. So if I don't want to talk to somebody, they think, oh, she's busy. But really, it's because I am avoiding you 100% because I'm having trouble that day to be the outward person. And it could be cyclical because my hormones do play a big role, or maybe it's best not to talk to me that day, or I just don't like your vibe. Mm-hmm. Something that I struggle with, and I think it's really common for neurodivergent people to struggle with, is energy levels, because we are constantly calculating a lot of things or inputting a lot of stimuli at one time, and it can be absolutely exhausting. So I know with the lovely NDs in my family, we often feel like, do I have chronic fatigue syndrome, or why can't I get a handle on this? Is it just my cycle? Am I anemic? But really, we are taxed all the time by trying to maintain things. And even though we realize it's okay to be like a bit weird, so it's not maintaining a front, but it's like daily tasks, like brushing your teeth can be overwhelming, or like I talked about, replying to emails can be really difficult. So we have to be really careful about where our energy is spent. And then, like for me, so being a neurodivergent business owner, I actually booked myself out of my reading calendar because it's winter and I felt a big push to just stay home and rest because I go all the time. I've got lots of ideas. I put all of my energy into that, and then I do it so much and for so long because I don't really have an off switch that it builds up and I crash. And I think that that's normal for the unnormals. Basically not always recognize where their limits are. And so listening to my body tell me, hey, you need to slow down, I had a lot of feelings about pulling myself back from all the things I was doing, because a big part of having my shop is creating a community. Then I feel like I have to be present for my community, and to pull back means I'm not giving the service that I like to give, or to even just be of service in that sense of giving readings. I had to recognize that if I'm doing something while I'm very taxed, nobody's asking that of me but me. There's nobody that's coming to me for a reading who's saying, why aren't you getting your butt off the couch when you're clearly exhausted and giving me this reading? So I had to reframe my mind to be okay with resting when I was tired and taking that space and time for myself to honor the fact that I really just do get tired. So no matter how many ideas I have, and I know that there's lots of us out there who get super excited about things and delve in like 110%, don't if you can avoid it. Or if you're feeling that sense of I need to let some of these things go or do less, then do less. Nobody is going to fault you for it.
I think it's super important, both as somebody who identifies as neurodivergent, to be aware of where those boundaries are and to uphold them. I think it's also something that's super important as a witch to be able to do that too. I know in one of the workshops that we had done, you had told us that you had taken some public speaking lessons to help you with your shyness and stuff like that.
Yes. So when I started with the organization that I work with now, they offer Toastmasters for free on your lunch hour. Being very shy, if I was in the elevator with someone, first of all, I'm not looking at anybody. I don't even need to know who's in there. Somebody would try to talk to me, but when I'm nervous, the first thing that happens is my throat closes up. So I thought, I can't go through the rest of my life this way. This is not appropriate for an adult. So I decided to try it. Now, because of the way I am, I want to be 100% awesome at it. And I really wasn't. And I couldn't put the time into it where you have to write your speech. Nobody's got time for that. So I didn't really accomplish a lot, but I did go consistently for about a year. And I probably did 3 speeches. And the first one I did, if you care to know, was comparing 2 of my favorite characters, which are James Bond and Doctor Who.
I love it. Because
it's interesting, they both don't have a name, or don't always, you don't get to know where they come from until it's slowly revealed. Anyway, it was good at the time. Did
you find that it helped you with your own personal business at the shop and with clients and such?
Part of the reason I took it was because I always had this idea that one day I would be able to run workshops. It's not like I really want to be a teacher of anything, but really want to do is help other people find what they're interested in and give them all the tools that they need to go and do that thing and feel good about it. So not be like me where I second guessed everything that I did, not sure what was going on, but to be that person that says, you're the magic, you are good enough. This is all you need is you. And if you want to throw in these other things, I'll help you with that.
How do you find that your neurodivergency affects your witchcraft?
I'm very inconsistent. I have a hole in my head where dates are concerned. So unlike some of the typical characteristics you hear where people are very good with math and numbers, I am not. I think it is like dyscalculia is maybe what it's called.
Yeah,
where
sounds about right.
Everything kind of gets jumbled in my mind sometimes with dates, but it's about timing with dates. It's not even the number. It's like, did you ever watch the Muppets when they came out with their show like The Office? It was like this documentary style Muppets.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Well, there was a character in there that can like taste colors.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I have that, but not with the colors part. It's with the calendar. So that is related to visual snow, which I have. So to me, everything is moving. Yeah.
That's why I talk so much about aphantasia, because I didn't realize that aphantasia was even a thing. I thought everybody was like it, right? And it wasn't until I started getting really into witchcraft and I was trying to meditate, and all of these, guided meditations are telling you to visualize walking into the forest and you meet your deity or whatever. And I'm sitting here explaining to myself what that looks like, because that's how visualization works for me. It's literally my inner dialogue explaining what that picture would look like. But then I'm not following the guided meditation anymore. Now I'm lost, and I was getting so frustrated with how much I was struggling with it. And I randomly Googled one day, I'm like, why can't I meditate? And the first thing that popped up was, maybe you have aphantasia. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I was like, wait a minute, people actually see shit? I literally thought people were like exaggerating when they were like, oh, I could totally picture that. I thought people were just exaggerating. I literally was like messaging all my friends going like, if I tell you to close your eyes and picture an apple, do you see an apple, or are you telling yourself what the apple looks like? And they're like, no, I see it. Like, what do you mean?
I was also diagnosed with dissociative disorder when I was about 15. And I didn't know what it was. They didn't really explain it to me.
Of course not. Why would they do that?
Yeah, but she would do a lot of, hey, I'm over here. Like, I would actually sort of leave my body in a sense.
Yeah.
And, due to trauma, like you do. So it actually took me a long time. Like when I was a teenager, it took me a long time to feel. And even to this day, I remember the first time I got truly angry. And it was my boyfriend cheated on me while I was in England. I totally cheated on him too. But I came back and he had cheated on me in a much more sense with my best friend. And I remember being like, that's fine, And then I was walking home and I was like, maybe it's not fine. And then I remember being like, oh, I'm angry, and being so like excited about being angry. And but I don't know if there was just never a space in my life before that to be emotional, because it's kind of like, let's not overreact here. There's a lot of pushing down of emotions, or if I truly just never felt a lot of emotions other than fear.
Do you find your neurodivergency boosts your witchcraft at all? Like, does it help you in any way specifically?
I think being neurodivergent, or something I've read about neurodivergency, is you're just more accepting of things that maybe other people can't believe in, where their logic comes in. And I'm not saying witchcraft is illogical, because to me this is the most logical way to be. I don't understand how you can be another way.
But it's the logic they've been taught their whole life, right? Yeah.
I feel like because the brain is, in my opinion, so much more open, or it's firing differently. To me, it feels more open, where you don't look at life through the, you go to school and then you get married and then you have kids. Like, none of that was anything that I did. Not in that order, not because I felt like I had to. And I think it's like you're always seeing outside of the lines, and you can't understand why other people want to live that way. And I don't want to say like all neurotypical people are boring or staunch or vanilla, but I just
But they are.
I think I needed more color than that, you know. And we're just naturally more creative.
Right.
So you're always coloring outside the lines.
Do you find it difficult sometimes to navigate within the witchcraft community due to your neurodivergence? Like, do you feel like you're kind of outside those circles that they're having or talking about?
I do. I don't know if, you know, witches just feel that way in general. I do feel like there's a few things that don't work in my favor. Predominantly, witches, covens, etc. are dominated by women. And although everybody here is lovely, I find it very difficult to make friends with women because when I was younger, I was old. And now that I'm older, it's like I'm young. And I don't really fit in with my own peers because their values and priorities are not mine.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways I look unkempt and lazy or weird. And I feel like it's always been, I've been the weird person forever. And now I'm like, I'm legitimately weird now that I know it's because I'm neurodivergent. But I just, I feel like that's always been a barrier for me to have friendships with women is I don't value, this is my nice way of saying, I don't value the same things that they do. I'm not interested in status. I don't carry pictures of my children in my wallet. It doesn't mean that I love them less. It means I don't need to show you how good they are in order for us to connect.
No.
I'm all about, you know, soul connection, real connection. I cannot have small talk. It's no good. So I'm kind of like impolite because I'm like, yeah. You know what you're really asking me is this.
Yeah.
So why don't we just cut out all of this and just get to the thing?
Right.
I would say because of the way that my brain works, I am brutally honest. And I don't mean to be mean, but it means I say things that don't need to be said,
Sure
which not everybody appreciates. And if you ask a question,
Yeah.
please expect an answer,
Right.
and it won't be one that panders to what you think you want to hear, because I'm going to tell it like it is.
I love it.
From my own opinion.
My whole life, I have been shit all over me for being that person that's too honest or speaks my mind too much. And it's been kind of like a flip side, you know, there are people that don't like it and there are other people that genuinely really appreciate it. I've had people thank me for telling them that I don't like them straight to their face, being like, look, I just really don't fucking like you and I don't want to hang out with you and I really wish you'd go away. And they'd be like, oh, thank you for being honest with me. And I'm like, what? Wait, you're not supposed to thank me for saying rude shit to you, but okay, can you leave now? Can you just go away? And they're like, no, thank you. And then they almost want to be friends with you more because you were so honest with them. And I'm like, but no.
Yeah,
like,
I'm still repulsed by it.
Yeah, I still don't like you. I still want you to go away.
I'll just share with you how I met my husband. So I was 19. I was home alone, so I was still at my parents' house. I was in a recent breakup with a boy who was beautiful. He looked like Scott Weiland and when he was still a bit chunky, you know, before he went all heroin.
When he was still hot.
Yes, yeah, he looked like that. Anyway, so I had recently gotten out of this relationship, so I was at home, like, eating a TV dinner, hair a mess, no bra, wearing this Boris Vallejo print t-shirt of Conan slaying the dragon, like, just whatever, don't care. And I was very, like, angsty. I'd say I still am angsty, but I was, like, super alternative angsty at the time.
You were 19, that's expected.
Yeah, real chip on my shoulder. And there was a knock on the door, so I go to open the door, and this guy's there, and he's like, hi, are your parents home? Being 5 feet tall and always looking younger than I am, I was immediately offended. So I said no, but I'm sure I'm of legal age for whatever it is you're trying to sell, so go ahead. So again, that blunt honesty, a big middle finger to this guy on my doorstep, and he was like, oh, okay, do you like pizza? And I rolled my eyes and said, yes, yeah, okay, I like pizza. And he said, would you hate me if I gave you free pizza for a year? And my response was, I already hate you. And I slammed the door. And then I stood there for a second. So one of those moments where your voice gets ahead of you. Then I had a moment to think, and I thought, that was really not very nice. And I opened the door, and he was still there, just staring at me. And he tells it to me like, you were the first person who said to me what I should have heard every time I knocked on somebody's door. So you can tell we were in a great place. He was a door-to-door salesman, and I was some angsty biatch at home, and we've been together ever since.
That's amazing. I love it. That's so cute. Do you have any tips for witches that struggle with neurodivergency? Anything that might help them find their footing within their craft?
Yes, I would say that rules and rituals are great when they work, but those rules and rituals may not work in your life. So don't think that what you're doing has any less potency because you didn't follow the recipe or you didn't do it on the right day, or any of some of the things that were taught. Those are all additives when you want extra energy and you can pull in those other elements. It's great, but there's nothing that says you have to do it the way it's been done before. Absolutely follow your own heart, follow your own intention, and use what you've got. And if it's just you, you don't need anything outside of you to do witchcraft at all. It could all be in your head and it will still work just as well. The rest are things to play with and to enjoy. And if you stop enjoying it, then find a new way to do it.
I like that. Do you suffer from imposter syndrome at all?
We were talking about this earlier, actually, my husband and I.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about he said something about a friend of his being like more of an artist than he is, and I was like, you have a gallery. Right. At what point are you going to accept the fact that you are an artist? Like, you're fully immersed. And he laughed and he just pointed his finger at me because it's the same thing. I do, you talk about do I sometimes feel like it's hard to fit in, not just because of the neurodivergency, but in part because of that. Sometimes I think people come into the shop and they're disappointed when they see me because I'm not gothic. I don't look like, I don't even have any makeup on. I hate wearing a lot of jewelry. Like, I'm not an outwardly decorative kind of witch, and I think people want this persona that I just don't have because I'm kind of like either super crusty or I'm like in your face like, oh my god, yes, I love this book, and I don't think it's what they're expecting sometimes.
I think it's fantastic that you don't look like me. I'm just going to throw that out there because I am, as I'm sitting here in my 5 or 6 rings and my bracelets and my necklaces, and I am a very decorative person. I'm a Libra and I have my aesthetic, and that's good for me. But I love that you don't look like that, right? Because we need to all move past this stereotype that's what a modern witch looks like. Because a modern witch could literally look like anybody. Absolutely anybody under the sun. We're all witches deep down. It's just a matter of whether you're tapping into it or not, right? So I think it's great that you don't fit that stereotypical Instagram witch.
And yeah, I love the look. And if I could put the time and effort into it, but I find those things very taxing. Yeah. And you probably already woke up just looking like you do. Whereas, and it suits you so well, and I love it because it's not overdone, and I wouldn't just walk past you and be like, whoa, It's more about your energy and how it all flows together. And for me, putting on makeup or trying to... to me, it's all trying, so I know it's not authentic.
Yeah.
I like cashmere, so I'll wear, nice soft fabrics. Everything for me is about being cozy. So yeah, you walked in and I had slippers on in the shop. I have shop slippers, and that's the way that I am. You
got to be there all day. It's important that you're comfortable, right?
Yeah.
I definitely have days where especially if I'm not going anywhere, I don't wear jewelry at home because I'm at home, and there's no point in me rocking all the jewelry while I'm at home. When I go out, Rose can tell you whether that's a Libra thing or not. It probably is. I cannot leave my house looking what I feel is like slovenly. Like, I just can't. I can't handle it. My brain just starts twitching, and I can't do it. I don't necessarily need makeup, but I do have to brush my hair, and I do have to make sure that I have met at least part of my personal aesthetic, and it's not even that I care what anybody else thinks about what I look like, because I don't dress the way other people want me to, but it's more about me being happy with how I am presenting myself to the world, right?
Yeah.
That's part of my brain tick, and it's like I said, it's nothing to, like, I don't give a shit if people like it or not. Like, genuinely don't care. It's me. Do I like it? Am I happy with it? But it's all very comfort based. I don't wear a whole lot of jeans because I find jeans very uncomfortable. I live in leggings because they're pajama pants that I'm allowed to wear outside of the house.
I love our varying degrees of comfort.
Right.
Whereas, you know, I basically only wear jeans because leggings make me feel exposed. It's like they're too close. And also I'm cold 100% of the time. So part of my neurodivergence, not to keep going back to it, but is that I don't really feel heat.
Yeah.
So it's a problem sometimes. Like I've had sunstroke numerous times, which, you know, I'm giggling because I'm like, am I brain damaged? Maybe. But I've had it so many times because I actually can't feel myself getting hot.
I really appreciate that you've mentioned a couple times in a couple different situations over the course of your life that you have pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone to overcome things that make you feel awkward or uncomfortable so that you can kind of work through them and improve yourself. And that's not a quality that a whole lot of people have. Just to wrap up real quick, can you tell us where we can find you? Where's your store? Where can we find you online? All that fun stuff?
Yep. So you can find my website online at www.widdershinscanada.com. And that will link you to, I have a website for my services as well, just to give you a little bit of background about myself and what I do. And any events that I have will be posted on there as well. And I dabble a bit in Instagram, which links to apparently a Facebook account that I have, all under Widdershins Canada. So at Widdershins Canada, and then whatever happens on Facebook happens.
And where's your store?
My store is located in Codes Mill in Perth, Ontario, on the second floor. It's like a little hidden away at 53 Harriet Street, Perth, Ontario.
And one last thank you to Michelle for giving us some insights into neurodivergency and witchcraft. Be sure to check out her website. We'll put the link below. And you can always find us at ours, greatnorthwitches.com. See you next time.
Bubbles. Dark basement. Scuttles. Fingernails.